Hey folks, how you guys doing? My name is Mark. This is Why I Hate the World. What's happening? So, looks like we are streaming now. Um, yeah, well, this is my second attempt at a politics and live stream. And mainly today I want to talk about fascism and the real life creeping fascism that's, slowly but surely taken over our country. And I know that's been a thing that people have been saying for quite a long time. They're basically, yeah, it's little baby steps, right? It seems like that's kind of like accelerated a lot in recent years, right? Especially in the last, you know, 6 months or so. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. So anyway, here is our GOP goblin that we drew last time, which I thought actually looked pretty good. So we are going to just continue on with this guy. And I think I'll probably color it. Let's see here. We're going to set this layer to multiply. And he looks all right, but before we color it, I'm going to do something here. I'm going to go into adjustments, and let's see, transform. I'm gonna distort this because this cheek right here, actually not that, I'm gonna go to transform. That cheek right there is kind of like, I don't like how this juts out too much. You know what I mean? I know they're like monster, it's a monster, so it doesn't really matter how much it like, how much of it is like disproportionate or whatever, but that weird cheek was just jutting out like all like strange and shit. So we're just gonna like do that. There we go. Kind of cut that down a little bit, and we'll just make this our color layer. And let's see. Let's make him orange. An orange goblin. That sounds good to me. Okay. Let's see here. So yeah. All right. Now, what do I mean when I say fascism is creeping up on us, right? Because that's something that you hear a lot, from people on the left all the time. The fascists are coming, the Republicans are fascists, right? Well, what do you mean by fascism? You know, because that means different things to different people. Do you mean actual like stomping around Nazis kind of thing? Like, is that the only thing that you consider fascists, right? The brown shirts and, you know, National Socialists, or do you mean basically any kind of corporate power that's ingrained in with the government? Is that fascism, right? Well, I think one of the big, mistakes is that people call fascism lots of things that it's not. And what they really mean is authoritarianism, right? That's really when people are saying, you fucking fascist, right? Whatever, they're either saying, okay, you're a racist or you're an authoritarian, that kind of thing. And in that regard, it is most definitely becoming a serious problem in our country. We definitely have a creep towards authoritarianism, which started in earnest, I would say, during the Bush administration. I don't know if and how many of you guys out there remember the Bush administration. Like, we tend to romanticize things that happened to us in the past. You know, um, we tend to forget and just look back at the good stuff. And we don't remember that a lot of the things that are happening today were enabled by the Bush administration. We look back and you see George Bush on Ellen and all that stuff, right? And it's like, oh, he's not that bad of a guy. No, he was. He was a pretty awful fucking president. And even if he wasn't a bad human being, even if he was like the Bush's whole thing was that, oh, he was this dude that you can go get a beer with, you can identify with him, blah 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 blah, and he was a Christian and all this other shit. And even if he was like a decent human being that you could identify with, right? That doesn't mean that he was a good leader. And a lot of the policies that he put into effect have enabled future bad presidents like Donald Trump, right? a lot of them. For example, you know, um, God, what was I saying? The unitary executive, right? That entire notion of the idea that the president should have 100% control of everything. That's basically the unitary executive, right? Let's see. Why is this thing getting all funky? So let me, hang on, guys. Got some technical difficulties with my Wacom tablet here, and my cat that wants to come visit. Come here, kitty. So maybe this will stop him from yowling. I got a cat in my lap here. Anyway, yeah, things like the unitary executive. The idea that the president is untouchable. He should be able to do whatever he wants, right, without approval from anybody. That started during the Bush administration, and in some respects, that was an attitude going back even further than that. But you'll notice the kind of change that overtook the Republicans, say, when Richard Nixon was president, right? Well, if the president does it, it's not illegal. Nobody bought it. Nobody went for that shit. When Nixon tried to pull the unitary executive, people didn't go for it. And now we have Donald Trump basically flaunting the law openly, you know, because he knows that there's no checks and balances left. He knows that basically no one's going to punish him, no one's going to do anything about it. The landscape has changed a lot since those times, even since Bush. I don't know if you remember, Bush had also had, um, Congress in his pocket as well for a little while, and was able to pass pretty much anything he wanted. And what did he say? Like political capital. Bush had that same power too, but there was a lot more in the way of checks and balances then, you know. And they didn't flaunt it. That's the difference. Is that it was still, the quiet part was still quiet, right? Yeah, we're gonna start these two wars in the Middle East, but for terrorism, right? And then Donald Trump basically jumps out and now he says the quiet part out loud. No, we're gonna take the oil, right? That's what's changed, and that's really the fact that you know that's what's happening, and no one is standing up to stop it, and the fact that we tried to stop it and we can't. That's the scary part to me, right? You know, because that's what we're really talking about when people talk about fascism. That's what they really mean is authoritarianism. The idea that the people in the government use their power to further their own agenda, to get reelected, to punish their political enemies, to make money, right? They're using it for them and not for us. That's basically, what authoritarianism basically is that, there's two laws. There's laws for them, right? Laws for the people in charge, the oligarchs, right? The rich people and the politicians, and then another set of laws that everybody else has to follow, which are designed specifically to allow them to exploit us. That's basically authoritarianism. If you look at any, like why do people become dictators, right? People like I don't know, name any dictator in the past, Augusto Pinochet or something like that. Why would somebody want to be a dictator, right? It's so that you can extract wealth from the country. Nobody, I mean, power for power's sake, yeah, maybe some people want that, Putin or something, right? But even Putin, why does he do what why does he like, murder his, like jail journalists and throw his political enemies in jail and even murder them? Why does he do it, right? So he can extract wealth. Putin is one of the wealthiest people in the entire country, or world. He's got something like $20 billion or something ridiculous like that. And we don't even know how much of that, that's like an estimate, because we don't really know how much money Putin has been able to extract from the Soviet, from Russia over the last, however long he's been fucking president. I mean, it seems like he's been president forever now, right? I mean, that's another, hallmark of authoritarianism. The fact that once they're in there and they never leave. Donald Trump jokes about that shit, about how he wants to, like, you know, go longer than his allotted 2 terms if he even gets reelected for the second term, which, fucking please God, if there is a God, please make him not get elected. Make him lose the election. Right. So like, yeah, this is really, and it's authoritarianism. I mean, you can basically, you know that's basically a synonym for fascism in general usage in the United States, right? And here's, I mean, I don't really know like who I need to convince, like, you know what I mean, because if you look now, right, since we had our impeachment that failed, right, now it's kind of like everything's out in the open. All the stuff that they were trying to hide, all the quiet parts that they said behind the scenes that they like implied to, now it's just like out in the open because they know nobody can do anything about it now. That's it. We impeached them. They know they're not going to impeach him again, right? Not at least until the election, And now like basically Donald Trump is like, a little kid who knows that like his parents are like out and the babysitter is in the fucking bedroom banging her boyfriend and is gonna do, now he's acting the fool, right? It's like when the fucking cats are away, the mice will play, right? That's exactly what's going on right now. So there was a story that I saw, basically, where he wants to, like, he's trying to get his friends off, right? Trying to save all of his friends from being prosecuted, starting with Roger Stone. This was actually a story that came up. I'm gonna kind of go over here. Where is it? I have this story right here from NBC News, and you know what we're gonna do? We're going to go over here to this guy, and then I'm gonna turn on left monitor display capture. Oh, wrong one. Right monitor display. Nope, wrong one. Left monitor. There we go. I'm going to turn that on, and then I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to make this bigger, just so I can... Now, let me just see what that looks like. Should look like that. Yeah, okay, that looks good. All right. So, what we've got here is... This is, I don't know. Let me just make that bigger, just so that people can see that. Hang on a sec, guys. Just working on stuff. Okay. There we go. I think probably be better than trying to fucking like trying to do all of this. Maybe I should get 3 screens. Anyway, so this is something that came up here that I want to show you guys. Barr takes control of legal matters of interest to Trump, including Stone sentencing. So this is something that came up. Basically, the gist of this article, right, is that now William Barr is personally trying to intercede in all the different investigations and things that have to do with Donald Trump, including his friends, right? One of those being Roger Stone. So what happened was that the prosecutors recommended a sentence of 7 to 9 years for Roger Stone, and now Bob Barr is intervening into that and forced them to rescind that recommendation, right? And basically saying that, we don't think that we think that's too long of a sentence, and that Roger Stone should really only get, probation, right? And because of that, all of the different prosecutors like that, there were something like 3 or 4 prosecutors that worked on that case have resigned in protest over that because it's bullshit, right? And it's like basically that's what's going on. And this article here, it's an NBC News, right? Barr takes control of legal matters of interest. I recommend you look this up, including Stone sentencing. It's not the first time it's happened. They did the same thing against Michael Flynn as well, which who if you guys remember, pled guilty to lying to the FBI, right? And they did the same thing there. Basically saying that you should give him probation, right? So if you look at this, okay, then I'm going to read a part of this. The new filing came on the same day Liu, who was the prosecutor, was removed from her job to replace the next day by a former prosecutor selected by Barr. So see what's going on here, right? He's going through, he's systematically removing all of the people with integrity who are actually doing their jobs and replacing them with cronies who are going to give the president's friends a slap on the wrist. That's what it is. You know, it's like it's happening out in the open. Okay, like all of you people out there who are afraid that the one day that you were going to wake up and the fascists were going to be there. It's like no, it's not coming in the future. It's already here. All right, this right here, this is fascism. Okay, using your office to benefit your boss's friends, right? That that shit should not be allowed. Okay, you can't have stuff like this in any normal fucking. I mean, oh, Jesus fucking Christ! Like, how can anybody justify something like that, right? I mean, look, there's another one. Okay, there's another thing that I wanted to bring up. All right, Trump fires defensive official for refusing to break the law on his behalf. Right, this is from February 11th of this year. The Intelligencer, which is a right. I don't know the politics of the Intelligencer, but this is from the New York Times, right? Okay, 2 days after Senate Republicans acquitted President Trump on both counts of impeachment, the Trump administration fired a number of national security officials. Okay, European Union Ambassador Gordon Sondland, Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman, National Security Council staffer from voluntary testifying before the House, as well as the latter's twin brother, Lieutenant Colonel Virginvi Vindman. I can't pronounce that guy's name. For being related to him. So see, that's not only is he firing the people that wouldn't play ball with him, the people that who testified against him, he fired the guy's brother, his twin brother. Why? Because he's a fucking asshole. That's why. All right. I mean, seriously, look at it. How can anybody justify this, right? So these are guys that were just doing their jobs, right? Who had integrity, who saw, these are people that actually went and testified, right? Because a lot of the other people that they called to testify wouldn't do it because Trump wouldn't let them, executive privilege. These guys actually went because they believe in their country. And, now they're basically revenge. That's what it is. Our president is enacting revenge on the people who dared to cross him, So, like, how different is this than, like, some Tin Pot dictator right, taking his revenge on his political enemies? I guess he's not murdering them. I guess that's the difference. It's one step away from Putin throwing a journalist in jail. From fucking what's the guy in the Philippines, Duarte? Throwing somebody out of a fucking helicopter. Like, seriously, that's what's coming next. That is what is going to happen next if we don't nip this shit in the bud. Okay, if we allow this to go on, I guarantee it. All right. Anyway, let's turn this one thing off. There was another one. I'll come to this in a minute. All right. Yeah. Shut up, Lindsey Graham. Come to that in a minute. So I want to go back to. Let's turn this guy off here, and let's move this out of the way. There we go. I want to go back to drawing for a little bit so I can get my fucking blood pressure down. Right. Holy fucking shit. I mean, think about, like, that's what Bob Barr does, okay? You remember when basically he fired fucking Jeff Sessions because Jeff Sessions wouldn't go along with it, okay? He wouldn't, he recused himself, basically, right? He wouldn't play ball, okay? Because even though Jeff Sessions is, like, an old, Southern fried bigot who, fucking segregationist and shit, essentially, right? Even though he's like a complete racist piece of shit, he still had enough integrity, he still had enough brains to realize, hey, it looks bad if I just, straight up get the president off, So that's why he got fired, and then that's why they got Bob Barr. So why did they choose Bob Barr, right? To begin with, because Bob Barr, that's what he fucking does. He covers up for Republicans. That's his history, Bob Barr used to be the Attorney General way back in the day for the first Bush, Bush 1. back in like 1989, right? And he's the one that basically he convinced George W. Bush to pardon all of the people that got busted for Iran Contra. You know, like, I don't know if you guys out there, if you don't remember or were too young for Iran Contra, basically what it was that, they illegally sold weapons to, the Iranians, right? And in exchange for hostages, which was something that Congress basically said was, not allowed. It was illegal. And the Reagan people did it anyway. Right. And then, a couple of people got busted for that and actually like went to prison, and then fucking Bush like pardoned all of them because of Bob Barr, right? That's basically what Bob Barr does, is that he covers for Republicans. That's why they got him in there, because they knew that he'd play ball. They knew that he'd fucking like, bend over backwards to get Trump off. And that's what he did. Okay. If you remember the Mueller investigation, right? I mean, it seems like ancient fucking history, the Mueller investigation, doesn't it? That was only like what, 6 months ago, all right? Like, seriously. And Bob Barr takes over the investigation because Jeff Sessions wouldn't shut it down, right? And that's why Jeff Sessions got fired, right? And basically, fucking, when it comes out, he gets in front of it, puts out this memo that mischaracterizes what it is, and then doesn't get, so then that gets into the news, right? And we have like basically his like take on it, right? Which was like a redacted version of the report. So if you remember that, when the full report came out, it didn't matter what it said, because we were all going off of the fucking redacted version that Bob Barr put out, the sanitized version, the version that said that Trump did nothing wrong and we're not going to prosecute. And really, the only reason that they weren't going to prosecute is because, Trump's the sitting president, which is a bullshit rule. That should be, the first thing that the fucking, like, new president does, whether it's Bernie Sanders or whoever, once they take over as president, is that they should fucking get rid of that. We should really like pressure whoever it is to remove that fucking that rule that says that a sitting president can't be indicted. That's a load of fucking shit. Okay, the whole point of having laws that everyone are supposed to be subject to is the idea that everyone is supposed to be fucking subject to them. And if you have people that aren't subject to them, then this is what happens. It's authoritarianism, it's fascism, right? It's one law for you and then another law for everybody fucking else, right? And that's, it's unjust. It's unjust, and you can't get mad at people for not wanting to play, for not wanting to support the system when the system doesn't support them, you know. And we'll get a little bit more to that in a minute. We'll come to that in a little while, right? Because I kind of want to end on that, that idea that the system doesn't work for you, but at the same time, you have to work within the system, I mean, what are you going to do? Like, go fucking, I don't know, unless you want to go start a revolution or something, right? Violent revolution. I mean, yeah, we'll talk, I don't know. I mean, I'm not for that. I'm not for a violent revolution. Sorry, no. Maybe one day, right? But still, I could see that day coming, you know. I don't know. I mean, so here's some other shit. I want to go on a little bit more about Bob Barr, So, what do I mean? Like, okay, one law for you and another law for everybody else, right? Well, basically, Bob Barr right now, there's another news story out there where Barr has directed any investigations that are, going to go into any candidates, any presidential candidates this year, are going to be handled by him personally. They have to be approved by him personally, right? Now, what does that mean? Okay, because what does that sound like? It sounds like, oh, okay, well, this way we won't have any like, God damn, something's wrong with my fucking thing here. It's like, see that? It shouldn't be doing that. All right. Let me just, technical difficulties. Sorry. Anyway, so what does that really mean? Because it sounds like something that you would want. It sounds like something positive, right? It sounds like, okay, well, he's going to prevent any people in the government from misusing their power, right? But that's not really the case. That's not really what it means. It's basically it's saying that anytime, because he knows this is going to happen, any new investigations of Donald Trump have to be approved by him personally. That's what that means. All right. So just imagine now, more shenanigans come out of Donald Trump, like cheating again. This time in the 2016 election, more connections with Russia, right? Russian hackers, or him trying to get dirt on another candidate. Let's say he goes to Venezuela or something and tries to get dirt on, I don't know, Bernie Sanders or some shit like that, because there's some dumbass Republican fucking conspiracy theory that Bernie Sanders is being funded by Maduro or whatever. Like, let's say that that's something that happens, right? Well, now, since it has to be approved by him personally, he's basically that move is to squash any kind of, investigations like that. That's what that really means, all right? Because that's what Bob Barr does. He covers up for fucking Republicans. Okay. I don't know. It's really like sad. And here's the thing, right? Is that now it's all in the open now. So for example, there's another window I've got open here. Lindsey Graham is basically like confirmed that they're still continuing with like this investigating fucking Hunter Biden. They're still doing it. So the whole thing that Donald Trump got impeached over, right, which was trying to strong arm a president of another country and using government, like, using the resources of his office to further his political ambitions, right? His own political gain. That entire thing, he's still doing it, and it's like still happening now. And now they're like admitting it in public. In fact, you know what? I'm going to bring that up because I've got it right here. Lindsey fucking Graham, right? Like, here it is. This fucking video. Treasury Department. All right, here. Let me just go over here and let's turn on our left monitor. Okay. Turn on our left monitor. There we go. In fact, can you see that? Wait, let me make sure you can see that. Yeah, okay, you can. Treasury Department hands over Hunter Biden's info after withholding Trump's tax records. What does that mean? So they're continuing their investigation, their abuse of power. They're continuing to use their office to investigate their political rivals, right? Why? Why is the Treasury Department giving, Congress fucking Hunter Biden's tax records? Why are they doing that? Well, there's a law that says that Congress is allowed to look at the tax returns of any person at all in the entire country, including the president. You'll notice here it says after withholding Trump's tax records, right? Because once again, it's one law for him and another law for everybody else. So if you're the president, if you're Donald fucking Trump, they'll bend over backwards to protect your ass. But if you're anybody else in the country, especially if you're one of Trump's enemies, that shit doesn't apply to you anymore. Now the real law, the normal, ordinary law applies to you, right? Read this too. This is on HuffPost. Basically, kind of. To sum this all up, it basically says that they're doing it out in the open. They don't care anymore, right? And they know, and it's because they know that no one's gonna stop them. No one's gonna stop him. They already impeached him. They're not going to impeach him again, right? They're going to, not before the election. And now he's going to do whatever the fuck he wants because he's like a kid where it's like when the teacher leaves the room when you're in high school, and all the kids just go fucking bananas when there's no teacher in there. And people get up and they start copying each other and they start fucking around and kids get into fights and a dude starts smoking a joint in the back of the room. That's what's going on right now in the Trump fucking administration. Right. And it's all of these, revenge plans and shit are starting to be formulated. And, oh, we're going to go get them. And they know that because they know that we can't stop them, right? Not until the election. And basically he knows that his base doesn't give a fuck. His base doesn't care, He can abuse his power all he wants. They don't believe that anymore. They don't believe that abuse of power is something that you should be impeached for anymore. Okay? They did when fucking Obama was president. All right. Trying to, I guess because what? You ate the wrong kind of fucking mustard on a sandwich. Ridiculous, right? This is another one that I saw. Barr says no investigations into 2020 candidates without his approval. You should definitely read up on that, Fucking ridiculous. Um, Another thing I just wanted to point out, this was something before the Mueller report came out. Bob Barr actually authored a memo saying that, obstruction of justice wasn't a crime, you know. And then, lo and behold, he doesn't recuse himself, right? Because he has a clear fucking conflict of interest. See, because that's what Bob Barr does, right? You shouldn't, and the minute that he got appointed to this shit, we should have known about it, okay? We should have known that this was what was going to happen, all right? So anybody who's mad, right? Anybody who's mad like me, you know, this, just remember who fucking did this, all right? Now, I kind of want to. How long have we been streaming for? First off, because I'm going off on tangents and shit, right? I haven't really done very much coloring here. Let's see. Where's my? Sorry guys, give me a sec here. Let me just kind of get into this. And doesn't say, oh hey, I got 4 viewers. What's up, guys? How you guys doing? Wow, some people actually watching and shit. Right on. 2 likes. Cool. Wow, this is like a milestone for me. Man, fucking awesome. So, I just want to say, okay, how do we stop it? All right, because, all right, our politicians are the Democrats. The politicians, they failed us. All right, and they're not gonna fucking do shit. And here's the thing: did you really think that they were gonna be able to stop it? I didn't think so. I mean, come on, let's be fucking logical here, right? The Democrats are weak. They're weak, right? They're weak because, first off, they are forced to have integrity because we, the Democratic voters, have integrity. All right? That's why. That's why, although you do see plenty of cheating and lying Democrats, that happens all the time, right? You do see that a lot. It's still nowhere even close to where the Republicans are at. And I'll take the Pepsi challenge on that shit any day of the fucking week. Like I remember the first time I started, right around, I guess it was actually, I think it was the 2000 election was the first time I heard somebody say the candidates are all the same. If I think back between the election with Bush and Al Gore, right? And that was a long time ago, right? And I was very, new to the whole online experience back then. Right. The internet was much different than it is today. I mean, you didn't have things like social media. You didn't have YouTube. You didn't have, you had you had forums. That's where people went, bulletin boards, right? Things like Something Awful, stuff like that. And they were a lot more popular than they were today, and you also had websites that were you know, um, content aggregators, right? Things like the Drudge Report and shit like that. And a lot of that stuff's still around, but that was mainly those were the forms of political discourse back then. You didn't have YouTube videos or people on Facebook and shit like that, because it didn't exist, right? And I remember people debating, there were a couple of political forums I used to go to back in the day, and sadly none of which are still around nowadays. And people would say shit like, well, they're both the same, and what do they stand for? Bush and Gore, oh, they're both part of, and then you'd get people who are wacky and say shit like, well, they're both part of the Skull and Bones, blah, 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 blah. And they both have fucking, they're both beholden to the banks and they're both beholden to this and they're both in the same secret societies and shit. And, yeah, okay, whatever, right? But, I think now looking back 20 years now, I think I can definitely say that no, they're not the same. You know, looking back at the policies of Bush one, Bill Clinton, Bush two, right, Barack Obama, and now Donald Trump. I think that they are very much distinct in several major important fucking ways, right? Now, maybe not in all the ways that everybody wants. Okay, because I will say right off the bat, when it comes to banking, right, when it comes to regulating the banks, the finance sector, things like that, they're pretty close as far as that goes, right? Because it's true. For example, Glass Steagall was repealed during the Clinton administration. Okay, you know, so it's so you can't say that Democrats are blameless because they're not. They're not blameless. There is conservative, a very strong conservative establishment movement. I guess you would say not movement, but faction within the Democratic Party, right? That protects rich people. You know, basically the people that are in bed with the banks. The Michael Bloomberg kind of people, right? They're very strong. You see them all over MSNBC, stuff like that, trying to basically, poo-poo Bernie Sanders. You know, um, the basically they're the people that are like the anti-progressives, right? And who would in any other country be considered conservatives? Republicans, right? They're more aligned with the Republican Party than they are with the rest of the Democratic Party, right? And they're people that maybe have somewhat progressive ideas when it comes to race and gender and things like that, although not really, but a little bit more. They're more willing to accept things like, gay marriage, for example, right? As a way of, but the thing is, they're willing to accept it as a way of sanitizing the greater masses of people that they need to vote, to have, to get votes from in order to win, when their real agenda is just basically Republican light. Okay, that's definitely true. That's definitely a thing. But I would even say that looking back at the performance of the last six presidents, in my lifetime, I can't really say much about Ronald Reagan because I was a small child during Reagan's administration, so I don't really know. I didn't really follow it. I only really started following politics in the early '90s, right? Because I was old enough by that point, you know. But I can really say that during that time, the time that I've been alive and able to comprehend this shit, the country is has been much better off under Democrats, just in general. You know, just think about like right now, a lot of the problems we have right now, that we're facing in this country has to do with Republicans and policies that Republicans originally, Republicans and conservatives originally proposed, right, or enacted, and even things that, say for example, NAFTA, right? Well, that was Bush's, Bush one, that was his bill, okay, that he pushed really hard and he couldn't get passed, and it didn't pass until Bill Clinton, put in the very smallest of tiniest of labor protections in there, and then managed to get it passed, right? And that's kind of like, well, there you go, right there. There's an example of you know, the establishment class working for its own interests, regardless of who regardless of who the president is, regardless of who's in office, right? They're always going to get their shit in there, right? Well, but even then, I would even venture that under Bill Clinton, you know, the economy was better, right? The economy was better. We had less in the way of this sort of creeping authoritarianism, you know. It's like it doesn't go away, all right? I don't want to say that because a lot of people are going to turn around and say I'm full of shit. It doesn't go away. It doesn't stop. it slows down significantly when Democrats are in office, right? And I think right now we have a chance for maybe the first time to actually stop it. You know, we have right now, Bernie Sanders is the front runner right now for the Republican, Republican, for the Democratic, nomination, right? So this is like a real progressive person, like an actual real progressive, not a fake progressive, not a phony progressive, not a centrist, right? A real progressive, someone that has been trying to, has been talking about the same policies, trying to enact the same policies for decades, right? This is like we have the chance now. We can get them in there, and we can actually. God damn it! Sorry, my shit's getting fucked up here. Step backwards. So okay, but I'm gonna, like I said last time when I said I'd vote blue no matter who, right? Because I did. I would still even vote for the centrist Democrat myself. I mean, that's just me, and I've gotten some pushback on that from people, so I'm not like, that's not, now, don't get me wrong, that's not my ideal situation. My ideal situation, of course, is Bernie Sanders, is who I would want to vote for, right? Pretty much everybody else that's there now would require me to hold my nose and do it, but I'd do it. I'd vote for him, I think maybe the only person that I would have real problem voting for right now on the Democratic side is Michael Bloomberg, because that guy is slime. Michael Bloomberg's a piece of shit. Right? He's basically, the whole stop and frisk thing just fucking ruined it for me. And at that point, I mean, I still think that he would be demonstrably better for the country than Donald Trump, right? And I would really still rather have him in office than Donald Trump. I just don't think I'd be able to like vote for him. That's the one candidate, right? Pretty much everybody else that's there, I would vote for. All of them, including Joe Biden, including, Pete Buttigieg, right? Even though they're phonies. They're phonies and they're fakes and they're conservative. Pete Buttigieg is very conservative. He's essentially Republican, which kind of blows me away because he's like, gay. So why the fuck are you a Republican if you're gay? See, that's another thing that I don't get. People, it's hard for us that come from this at a more of a social justice angle to understand that that these labels we put on people are artificial, right? And I know that people on the left they like to think that they're more open-minded when it comes to this shit, but they're not. Okay, we all have biases. This is something that we all need to remember. We all have biases. Hey, Raph, what's up? How you doing, man? Holy shit. Cool. Wow, people are like fucking, commenting and stuff. Anyway, but yeah, we all have biases, right? And we think in our minds that, this is only logical, that if you believe this, then you should do this, this, and this, right? So if you're a gay person, then you should support your own interests, and your own interests are, like what, right? Things that the Democrats support. That's what your interest, getting married, equal rights, stuff like that, right? Being able to serve in the military, blah blah blah. And then you would think that anybody would see it who is like, uses their logical head, would conclude that the Republicans are not the right way to go as far as that. And we'd be wrong. We'd be wrong because, that's a bias. All that shit that I just said. It's a bias. There's plenty of gay people out there who are conservative. There's black people who are very highly conservative, who are like, we all think that if you're a black person, that's another bias that we on the left have. If you're a black person, then you're progressive, then you believe in certain things. And it's like, no, there are plenty of conservative black people out there, highly religious conservative black people that are anti-gay, that don't like gay people, that vote Republican. There are black Trump supporters. There are Latino Trump supporters, right? People out there, those are the people that Trump is like basically persecuted the most in this country are Latinos. with all of the you know, deporting like people like DACA students and stuff like that, and going after guys who have had green cards for 20 years and deporting them, and like people like business owners and stuff like that. You know, all of those people are like, you know, you would think that they would be rabidly anti-Trump. That's not exactly true. You know, there's plenty of Latinos out there that for one fucking reason or another support Trump. You know, and it's like, so we can't take all this shit for granted. You can't just assume because somebody looks a certain way, right, or has a certain kind of ancestry or whatever, that they're gonna believe what you think they should believe. You know, it's not as cut and dry as that in this country. So anyway, need is one corporate weirdo who's likely a joke channel to pop in. Oh well, hey, I think you're talking about what's his name, 1911. That dude. Oh, there was another guy. Yeah, okay, I know what you're talking about now. That guy. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you know what? Everybody's welcome. Anybody can say whatever they want in my channel. I'm cool. You know. Um, so anyhow, yeah, I think. See, this is my thing, right? I just I think right now that if I were a betting man, right, I would say Donald Trump is going to win this next election, right? And the reason why I say that is because we're not united here on the left. We're not united. We're not. You know, we've got a very loud, vocal faction that is in support of Bernie Sanders, right? But if you look, you know, although he's in the lead, like, what did he win Iowa with? You know, 27%, right? So there's that, you know, all the other people, they all have their own little candidate that they want to support, right? And there's no guarantee that after any given candidate drops out, um, you know, that they're going to move over to the front runner. There's not. See, the Republicans, yes, that's usually what happens when it comes to Republicans. But for Democrats, no, that's not what happens. You know, because that's not what happened last time. You know, if you remember, right? Like Bernie Sanders dropped, and then all the people that were supporting him did not move over to Hillary Clinton. Right? She didn't get enough votes. Right? People were not excited about her, and she lost. Right? Unfortunately, she didn't get the votes in the places that counted. Right. Which is fucking bullshit. And really, I don't see it being any different this time at all. Like, for example, Andrew Yang just dropped out. Right. Well, where are his supporters going to go? Well, I don't think any of them are going to stick around at all, to be honest, right? Andrew Yang supporters were mainly, like, somewhat conservative, like, 4chan types. You know what I mean? Like, that's the reason why, like, a lot of Trump people were supporting Andrew Yang, you know, because of UBI, right? Because a lot of those guys can't get jobs. Although I should be the one to talk. I'm actually currently unemployed right now, which sucks. I have an interview on tomorrow, so we'll see how it goes. But you know, like um, a lot of those guys have trouble getting jobs, you know, and that's why they supported Trump in the first place. And so they see a guy like Andrew Yang promising something like, you know, UBI, and they think that's something that I want. I want some free money, you know. And I don't really think a lot of his supporters. See, I don't think a lot of his supporters actually thought through what UBI actually would be, or what it means, or how we could actually institute it. You know. So for the record, I'm all for UBI. I think UBI is a great idea. I think we're gonna need it very soon. And wait, he won't win this time. Let me see. Wait, Genie B, he won't win this time, and he won't win this time. He did steal the shit like a thief he is. Are you talking about Trump, Genie? Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. He's gonna, you know, steal it. He's gonna attempt to steal it again. Right. If we thought that the shenanigans from 2016 were in the past, no way. It's going to be even worse. And the thing that which makes it worse, like I said earlier in the cast, you know, in the stream, is that now any investigations into, you know, into Trump or any kind of election, you know, fucking fraud or any kind of shenanigans like that are going to be controlled by Bill Barr now. So now we're probably not even going to hear about it when shit hits, when the shit happens. We're probably not going to even hear about it until after the fucking election now. But anyway, but I want to talk about UBI for a little bit, right? Because I think that's something that, yeah, like even a lot of his supporters, even a lot of Yang's supporters, I don't think they understood what UBI would mean or how it would work, you know. Because I don't see it happening in this country unless it's on a national level, right? Because first off, like imagine what would happen. What would happen if, let's say, California put in some type of UBI? Let's say California said, okay, you get $1,000 a month per person, right, for just living here, just being a California resident, and then maybe you have to, you know, maybe you have to meet certain requirements. Like, let's say you can't have any drug convictions or some shit like that, right? Or you can't, you can't have any violent convictions or any felonies or something, some kind of fucking rules, right? What do you think would happen if California did that? I'll tell you what would happen. Right? Everybody in the country would move to California. That's what would happen. Okay? And we would get a major, gigantic spike in immigration here, right, into California from other states for people who want that free money, right? And it would be great. It would really, California's economy would go through the roof because the more people you have, the larger your economy just by default. That's just how it works. The more people you have, the more demand for goods and services there are, right? And the bigger your economy gets because people meet that, right? But whether that would mean that, that we could keep up with it is a different story. And I don't think we'd be able to. I think it would grow faster than our ability to, pay it out. So it would have to be something, if you want to do a UBI program, it's going to have to be something that is instituted on a national scale. And it's going to have to be something that all the states have, right? Because, or else you're going to get that kind of lopsided burden, and it'll be like the burden of certain states and not others, right? I mean, unless you make the rules so like freaking hard to meet, unless you make the criteria so hard to meet that nobody can meet it. Oh, you had to be a resident for 25 years, and you have to have a no criminal record, and you have to be born on the second Tuesday of the fourth year following the month of whatever, and blah blah blah, and you have to have a dick that's 9 inches long. Unless you can say all of this shit, unless you put so many rules on it that nobody can meet it, that's exactly what it's going to be, right? So, it would have to be something like, it would have to be something that all the states get it, and it would have to be equal, right? All the states would have to have equal access. Everybody in every state would have to have equal access to UBI, right? And it would have to be, something that something funded on the federal level. Well, that shit's never going to happen. It's never going to happen while we have Republicans, conservatives in charge, you know. Yeah, that's true. So many already flock here after every natural disaster. Definitely. You know, that'll never be a thing. And that's just the one thing I want to kind of end on, because we're getting a little close to how long we've been streaming here anyway. Let me just check here. Let's see. We've been going for... Where's my time? 54 minutes. Yeah. Let me just finish up this hat and then do some shit to the eyes, and then we'll call it a day. Yeah, you know, that's the thing that I want to, like, kind of stress to everybody, is that shit is never going to change when you have conservatives. And I'm not even going to say Republicans, okay? I'm not going to say Republicans, because there are conservative Democrats, you know, as we already talked about. They're the ones standing in the way of us making this a better world, basically. And it's conservatives in every country on Earth. They're basically, you know, causing pretty much all the problems we have in the country stem from conservative policies that have been enacted in one way or another. They're either directly causing it, you know, pollution, right, bad, you know, or it's a result of them preventing us putting in good policies, right? Like, you know, all the environmental damage that we have, natural disasters, like Jeannie B just said, you know, by the way, how you doing? I don't want to use your real name, Jeannie, but good to hear from you. I haven't seen you in a long time. We should like hang out. I mean, unless you're cool with me using your real name online, but I won't say anything. But for those of you who don't know out there in internet land, me and Jeannie B go back like 20 years, you know, longer than that. It's in the 90s and stuff. I used to date one of her friends, and she dated my brother, and you know all that. So it was like really cool to see you on here, and I'm hoping that I'm meeting with your approval here. Oh hey, so by the way, want to let you guys all know that I have another show coming up in in April. In fact, let me find the exact day. So Monster Palooza is in April, right? So, and it is, let me see. Oh, it's in May this year. Okay. So May 8th through 10th, 2020. I know that's like 2 months away and shit, but you know, I'm gonna like give shout outs and stuff like that into my you know, on my streams and everything because I want people to come. So in a future video I will give you a reminder and more info on that, but I'm going to be showing at Monster Palooza in Pasadena, which is a great show, um, and it's you know, doesn't cost $50 to get in. It's a pretty cool show. Anyway, all right, let's do some stuff to the eyes here. So yeah, you know, none of this is ever going to change unless we change it, right? And it's not going to change unless we unite. You know what I'm saying? Like, we really need to unite. Like, because that's kind of where I was going with this before we started talking about, you know, UBI, right? The Yang people, they're going to leave. They're not going to stick around, right? So what happens when, you know, Elizabeth Warren drops out eventually? Or a portion of her people are probably going to move over to Bernie, but probably not all of them because they don't really seem to be getting along very well. And the same thing's going to happen when all the other guys drop out. And then what if Bernie Sanders drops out? You know, let's just say that for whatever reason, you know, let's say they you know, there's shenanigans and they like, you know, they somehow cheat him out of it again. Or even if they don't cheat him out of it, but people think that they did and he drops out. Right. Are we going to support who they eventually, you know, select as the front runner, as the Democratic you know, nominee, right? I hope so. I really hope so. You know what? Let's do purple eyelids, irises. Okay. I really hope so. You know, because without that, you know, Trump wins again. Trump wins again. And can you imagine, you know, another 4 years of this shit, right? Like, what's the real danger right now of Donald Trump is not really, you know, him sleeping with porn stars and shit like that. Right? That's not the real danger, you know. The real danger, first off, is that if we were to say have a 9/11 type event right now. Like, can you imagine what would happen right now? Let's say 9/11 happens tomorrow, you know. Some kind of event that's just like it, you know. They blow up the fucking Chrysler building or something, right? Can you imagine what would fucking happen in this country? Like, that'd be it. It'd be over, right? Like, we'd be a real, you know, the fascists would just take over. You know, I mean, seeing how like, God damn it, why is it doing this? So my setup is like kind of fucked up. Sorry, it keeps like, you know, there we go. That's the real. Let's say, for example, okay, what if you know, I don't know, North Korea tomorrow decides they're going to invade Japan, right? Or not even that. Let's say North Korea tomorrow decides they're going to do something like, you know, blow up a nuclear missile, right, over the Pacific, right? What's Donald Trump going to do about it? You know, I mean, that's the real danger. The real danger of this guy is having him in charge of a crisis, right? Like, you know, because that's who's in charge right now. The person that's in charge right now is a guy that has never had to work for anything in his entire life. Every single time he's ever gotten in trouble, His dad fucking bailed him out, right? Every time that business that he's had has failed, he's still like he got all the money, all the investors got screwed. You know what I mean? Like basically that's the real problem. That's the real danger that we have right now is it's someone who doesn't know what the fuck they're doing, who's vindictive as hell and has now been basically enabled to use the vast powers of the United States government in order to further his own ends, right? And he knows that nobody's going to do anything about it. That's the danger, okay? And I'm really not kidding when I say that we're one step away from Trump jailing his political opponents. That shit can fucking happen. It will happen if he gets reelected again. That's gonna start happening. There's jokes right now, jokes about he keeps joking about how he's gonna stay in office past his fucking his 2 terms, and he's just joking around now. Yeah, it's a joke for now. You know, I mean, and his supporters don't give a shit. His supporters want to elect his fucking son to be the next president after him. And then they want to elect Ivanka to be the president, and they basically want it to be a fucking. That's not. I'm not making that shit up. Look that up. The Trump dynasty. There's people that actually believe in that stuff. Because his supporters are fucking. You know, I don't know. That's a whole nother live stream to talk about actual Trump supporters. Anyway, I think we're at a good stopping point here. My tablet is acting up, but I think we got most of it colored. Looks pretty good, we got the orange goblin here. I think maybe I should put some hair on him next time, and then maybe put him in a McDonald's outfit or something like that, or maybe put I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll work on it some more during the next live stream, whenever that's going to be. And maybe I should actually make a schedule out of this. But anyhow, you guys, thank you. Everybody who came in, Chad the Chud, and Oli, and my friend here in Shoma, and Jeannie B. Great to hear from you. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm gonna go ahead and call it a night. Adios, everybody.